Hi, my name is Carmen, and I am an early childhood special education teacher, a life and ADHD coach, and I'm the host of this podcast, Authentically ADHD. I created this podcast to help anyone wondering if they have ADHD, people who have been diagnosed for a while and want some more support and community. I'm here to bring you the latest research on ADHD and neurodiversities while we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of ADHD. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Hi, my friend, and welcome back to the podcast. How's it going? I'm not gonna lie, as I write this, I was just able to get over the mental resistance of going back to work. I'm taking stuff in tomorrow early, and it took a lot of regulating and a lot of journaling to be able to get to this point. I'm now practicing waking up at 5:30 this week and 4:30 next week, so my system doesn't go into a weird, stressed out nature when I just try to switch up my sleep schedule in one day, because that's what happens personally for me. So I have to really mentally and physically prepare. So here's the thing. We are all learning about ourselves and our own ADHD, and we all do these different things for ourselves to support ourselves. But there are still some prevalent stigmas and straight up myths about ADHD that people still wholeheartedly believe. And in order to break stigma, we must be aware of it. So today, we're going to go through 10 myths about ADHD that a lot of people still believe. And I'm going to tell you why and how it's not true, backed by research, experience, and observation in my years of experience in the ADHD world. Are you ready? Let's get started. The first myth you may be familiar with, and that is that ADHD is not a real disorder. Yes, people still believe this, even though it's in the DSM-5, and their reasons usually disregard science because they refuse to learn and or understand. So people who do believe this myth are usually older, and a lot of times they cannot be broken from their way of thinking. No amount of science or facts can usually change their minds. It's just not likely. They're stuck in their ways. But it is 100% a myth. ADHD has been researched for centuries. It's in the DSM-5 as a neurodevelopmental disorder, and it falls under the Americans for Disabilities Act as well. The next two are somewhat connected, and they are that ADHD only affects children, and then the ADHD can be grown out of. Those are two prevalent myths that are still highly believed. Now, research says that sometimes with very early treatment of less severe cases, that symptoms can become less often or less prevalent, become easier to manage, and they can go away. However, there's also overwhelming research that ADHD actually gets worse as we get older, especially for women with hormone changes and higher rate of miss and late diagnoses. ADHD does not discriminate. Gender, race, age, ethnical, culture, background, it just doesn't discriminate at all. So no, ADHD is not just for kids, and no, we don't tend to grow out of it. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder. We can improve and manage our symptoms, but usually we do not grow out of it. The next myth is that ADHD is caused by bad parenting or lack of discipline. Personally, I find this one kind of ridiculous, but people still believe it, so let's talk about it. I can see how maybe kids with ADHD may act out in public and create some type of stereotype, but that can't be the only thing that influences this belief. Because people in public, you don't know if that child has ADHD or is just having a bad day, or both. It could be anything. And here's the fact. Parenting and discipline can impact ADHD, but it doesn't cause it. I feel this myth comes from resentment and pain in parents when they have their children and they're diagnosed, especially later in life. It's a thing that they do is blame themselves. It makes sense in a way, but it's very, very untrue. The next one may be relatable, and it is ADHD meds will turn me or my child into a zombie. I was fearful of this as well at first, but in my experience and with the research I know, the right dose of the right medication and treatment should make you feel more like yourself and better, not worse. The hard part about this myth is that it's sometimes true in a way, but what people don't think about is that if the medication is making you feel like a zombie or like not like yourself, you aren't on the right medication or you're not on the right dose. Sometimes medication doesn't even work for some people. Sometimes you have to change and try a different medication, but you won't know until you actually try it. If that's not something you want to do, that's totally cool. But if it's something you do want to do, I'm telling you, it will impact your life positively when you're on the correct dose of the correct medication for you. The next one has been prevalent for quite a while now, and it's the idea that ADHD is being like wildly overdiagnosed. I believe diagnoses, it's gone up, but not due to overdiagnoses, but due to the improved knowledge around ADHD, social media, the more likely people are to speak up for themselves now, and the newer research that has been coming out that hopefully doctors are reading, and the doctors that have done it are practicing it. It's not overdiagnosis. There's more people getting treatment and help for something they always had. They just became more aware of it. This is part of breaking the stigma, unfortunately, but it's worth it, and it's worth it to live it and heal out loud. It breaks this kind of stigma. The next one goes along with it only affecting kids, and it's that you can outgrow it, and ADHD only affects little boys. No, it's more noticeable in boys. Why? Because they're naturally louder. They have testosterone. Usually, they're more hyperactive and interruptive and can't sit still. The inattentive girl staring out the window gets passed along, while the little boy receives accommodations, an IEP, and maybe even a diagnosis. This is one of those myths that feeds into the stereotype of the hyper little white boy. Like I said, ADHD does not discriminate at all. Gender, race, culture, or background. It's a disorder of the brain. We are born with it. All right, are you still with me? I know. We have 3 more myths, and the next 2 kind of intertwine. One is that ADHDers are just lazy or unintelligent, and the other is that ADHD is just a lack of focus. These couldn't be further from facts. Some of the smartest and most successful people I know have ADHD. We can have high IQs, and we may seem lazy, but we are never intentionally lazy. We have a deficient prefrontal cortex that affects so much more than just focus. We have a self-regulation deficit, and this can affect our relationships with ourselves, with others, our job or school performance, our quality of life, our daily self-care and hygiene, and so much more. ADHD affects how we communicate, organize, prioritize, emotionally regulate, self-reflect, and so much more. Minimizing ADHD can be dangerous, and it isn't just ADHD. Go listen to that episode for more information about this myth. The last and final myth I want to talk about is, again, connected to stereotypes that really make people with ADHD seem stupid. The last one is that people with ADHD can't succeed academically or professionally. Now, I could Google all the successful people with ADHD and list them out for you, but you could also do that. Personally, I went through school undiagnosed, untreated, until my last year of college. I got a BA and my early childhood special education certification, all while misdiagnosed and mistreated with antidepressants and anti-anxiety modalities. I have been at my teaching job almost 10 years, and I'm now a life and ADHD coach and a podcaster as well. I personally consider that success. If you don't, go Google some people who are highly successful who have ADHD. Jessica McCain, Haley Honeyman, and Kristen Carter are just a few that I know of offhand. I hope this episode helped you to know what's true about ADHD and what's not, so that we can keep breaking the stigma together. This was a shorter episode, but I hope you enjoyed it. That's all I have for now, friends. Stay authentic, and we will talk soon.
Speaking of extra supports, I just wanted to tell you all that I've updated my Patreon page to include all of the resources that I've really ever made to be held in one place. Just head to my show notes. The VIP members do get a little extra, but you can also purchase like my brand new Ultimate ADHD Journal and Planner, which I've been using for the past year. That has worked. Nothing is priced over $10, and everything is at least 50 to 100 pages that you can download and print. You can get it binded and sent to you, or you can just read it off your screen and use notebook paper. So if you want or need any type of that kind of extra support, just head to my show notes and click the Patreon link to join. I hope to see you in there.